Same way, I wake up when the sun she's coming up, get up, do a little workout, come home, get ready for work, and then I head to the office. But between where my home is and the office is the Model Bakery, an amazing 100-year-old bakery right in the middle of the Napa Valley. And I stop for a double soy latte, trying to watch my weight, you know how it is. And I think I can get by the bread, because they say, don't buy too much bread, it's not so good for you. You think I would buy just one loaf? No, I end up with like 3 loaves of bread every day. By the afternoon, I remember I have a meeting in San Francisco. 3 days later, I'm driving, I look in the back seat, there's my bag of 3-day-old bread. What do? Panzanella. One of my favorite techniques of all time. A technique, because one technique, and 4 seasons later, you have 4 great recipes that'll be with you the rest of your life.
Michael Chiarello's Napa is funded by
My memory of a kid growing up is at the end of supper, my mom would take whatever bread we had left over and would slice it into pieces about this thick, and she put it in the same loaf pan each and every time. And that loaf pan would go underneath the stove where it would get a little dry heat from the stove above to really dry the bread out naturally in its own course. Now, the kind of things that we would make with leftover bread are the dishes that you know of famous Italian cuisine today: crostini, bruschetta, panzanella, acqua cotta. All of these recipes are celebrating the life of a loaf of bread. Well, today's show is about my favorite technique with old bread, panzanella. The pana in the panzanella means bread, right? What we do with it is going to turn your imagination wild. Now here's how you start. If you have a loaf of bread that's a couple of days old like I have here, grab a serrated knife. Now French knives are great for mincing, but a serrated knife is really meant for bread. Alright, so we're just going to take the crust off this. I cut it in half first so I can stand it straight up, because I really care about my fingers. And then we're going to curl our fingers up and cut a little bit of the crust off. Now, if you don't mind the crust, you know, my grandmother used to say, eat the crust, you'll have beautiful children. I have 3 beautiful children, so I ate my share of crust. But if it's a little dry, you can take some off. All right, and we're just going to cut them into croutons. Any size you want. Sometimes if I'm doing kind of a meal that's a little more raffinato, I'll cut them into little teeny croutons. But in this case, it's a Tuesday night. I got more tomatoes than I can shake a stick at. Let me take these croutons. Now you could use whatever bread you have. If you have a little pan misto, it really doesn't matter. Right, so this is about half dry. Now these croutons, what they're really going to be is crispy on the outside and nice and soft and luscious on the inside. Now one of the things people always ask me is, how do you do it? How do you, if you're coming home from work, you have the same problems we do, you know, how do you shave a little time out of your day and not have to use, you know, a little speed scratch, something in a box to help you get there? Well, I tell you what, I do things in advance a little bit, and I throw them in the freezer so they're good to go. Now what we have here is a little roasted garlic. I took a little marrone, a little brown. You know that it's oxidizing, and that flavor is just, it's just not right. What's it take to mince a little garlic? Okay, garlic goes in. If you're eating with family, more garlic goes in. A little bit of very finely minced red onion or shallots, or if you don't have them, don't use them. Again, you can add to this whatever you like. I don't care. You want to put in some grilled zucchini, you know, make it your dish. That's the whole idea. Now for herbs, again, I'm going to use some basil and Italian parsley and some thyme and some tarragon, because I have it. If I didn't have tarragon, I wouldn't use it. Don't go crazy about every stem. So what? You get a little bit of stem inside your salad. No big deal. A little bit of prezzemolo, some Italian parsley. Do not use that curly stuff. We're gonna save that for the fast food restaurants to go in between the orange slice. Some fresh thyme. I like to taste my herbs. Everybody else likes to kind of mince them up until they go away. And some tarragon. I love the kind of licoricey character, a really good fresh tarragon. These are no big deal to put on a windowsill garden, and you'll have all the herbs kind of year-round. Okay, from here you can use a spoon, right, so it doesn't go on you. Or you can give them a big toss like a chef would. Look at that. I'm telling you, if I had a little spaghettini, I wouldn't let this be a hot pasta at all. Just take the spaghettini right from the pot. A couple spoons of the pasta water in the tomato vinaigrette. It goes. It's fantastic. Imagine a pan-seared piece of, say, halibut, crispy on the outside, salty and spicy, and just 2 spoons of this right over the top. A little bruschetta in your other hand. A glass of Pinot Grigio. Oh my God! I'm telling you, now, this is a technique you can use and should use all summer long. Okay, into here, salt. Now the croutons go in, okay? Now you can see on the croutons right in here how crispy and amazing they are. Remember I told you about the cheese, what it was gonna do. Now you're seeing for sure. The croutons go in. Get all that good stuff, all right? If you're cleaning your pan too much, you're throwing a lot of flavor away. And now you can see, this isn't like those Americani biscotti that are hard all the way through. You see this crouton? Soft on the inside, crispy and amazing on the outside. We want that softness. Texture is a flavor. Texture is your friend. So I don't want these to be really soggy. Now in the old country, they like them soggy. That's the tradition. It's their tradition. It's not my tradition. I like texture. My job's to make things taste as good as I can make them taste. Okay, now there's a couple different ways that you can serve panzanella. And take a grate of a little Parmigiano. And just set it right on the table for the family. Or, let's say it's Saturday night, and you got caught and some guests showed up that you forgot that you invited over and you want to show it a little more rafinato. You can take one of your spring molds, just like this, without the bottom in it, set it on a beautiful glass plate like I have here, and fill it up. And this little forma is going to give you a very dramatic presentation. And it's going to be able to let you serve a dish like this family style. Now you can serve a panzanella with a big piece of roasted chicken, big roasted chicken alongside here, and you have supper. It's not just a salad. Because of the texture and everything with it, this is really a wonderful meal. Now all you want to do, if you're going to use a form, now you can do these with a 4-inch form, an 8-inch form. You're just going to press them with the back of the spoon just until they can hold their shape. All right. And then, if it works, you can pull this guy off. Incredible, look at that. Now what we have is a little bit of arugula. Beautiful mound of arugula. Any greens that you want. Again, I don't care what greens. If you want to use the iceberg over here that you get the groceria, I don't care. But for me, I want a nice peppery salad. When you're setting these up, use your hands and get them up underneath there. All right, a little bit of gray salt. Some fresh ground black pepper. A little olio di olive. Some extra virgin olive oil. And to finish, just a snowing of some Reggiano Parmigiano. I don't know about you, but that's a plate full of summer. After breakfast, you can stroll down Main Street, one of the Valley's busiest attractions. Main Street in St. Helena is bustling all day long. What I love about living in a small town like St. Helena is you can get everybody to work for you. The butcher, in this case, I got the butcher to pound the veal chops for me. To make a spring panzanella, all you need, if you think back to the tomatoes, is a little bit of liquid, a little bit of moisture. It's very simple. We've picked asparagus. Now, I like asparagus that are this size when they really have some flavor. Those little things we're going to leave for the Francese to do whatever they do with them. But for me, I like a full-size asparagus. Now, all you do is grab an asparagus from end to end, give them a really good bend, and right where they break, that's where they're the most tender, and that's where you should stop. So break the asparagus where they decide they want to break. Once all the asparagus are broken, you can take a paring knife like I have here and just peel the ends off, because those are going to be a little bit tougher. Once those are done, we're going to take the tips off of these asparagus because we're going to cook them a little bit less than we are the stems. So cut the tips off. Into some boiling water, add a good amount of salt. This is the only chance you're gonna have to get salt inside the asparagus. And go ahead and put the tips in and cook them until they're just tender. Now pull them out, and whatever you do, I don't care who tells you what on one of those cooking shows, do not put them in ice water. We don't want to rinse that flavor away. We've been waiting all winter to taste asparagus. So just lay them out so they can cool off on their own. They're gonna stay green and be really, really tasty. While those are cooling, take the stems and put the stems inside that same water and cook them until they're tender, a little bit more like Nonna would do, right? So they're really, really soft, because what we're gonna do after we take these out is we're gonna puree them. So the stems go inside the blender, a little bit of salt, a good crack of fresh ground black pepper, and here's my trick to keep the asparagus puree green, just a little bit of acido di ascorbico, a little ascorbic acid or vitamin C that you can get at the pharmacy. That will just keep it green as an antioxidant. From there, some fresh basil, and again, if you see marjoram or oregano, use whatever you want, I really don't care. Just a little fresh herb in there is really quite nice. From there, I'm gonna go a good amount of extra virgin olive oil. Put the lid on, remember to put the lid on first, and begin to give them a good puree. Once the asparagus puree is nice and smooth, you can see I want this to coat my mouth really nicely. Go ahead and pull it out and turn it into a bowl. Now once you have an amazingly smooth and fragrant asparagus puree like here, all you have to do is grab some of its springtime friends and mix them with your croutons, and you have an amazing panzanella. In this case, what we've done is we've grabbed some petit pois, some English peas, of the asparagus tips, which are perfect, which we're gonna add in, and a spring onion. Now I don't know if there's spring onions all over the country, but if you see them, they're fantastic to use. And I tell you what we're gonna do. Before I mix this panzanella, I'm gonna get my veal right on the grill. And what I've done, I go into the butcher and I say to the mashallah, I say to him, hey, don't try to sell me one of those rib chops like it's a loin chop for $14 a pound. So I negotiate just a little bit. Take a veal chop that isn't necessarily just perfect and ask them to pound them till you can just almost see your fingers through it. Not too thin, but not too thick at all. So we get them nice and thin, and this is gonna become our plate for our panzanella. So we take these. Whenever we're seasoning anything, people are always afraid. Whenever I'm out on the road doing classes, they're like, oh my God, you use so much salt. Half of the seasoning is gonna go off in the pan, so don't be afraid to season it. That goes on. A little fresh ground black pepper, good amount. A little olio di olive, some olive oil, just enough to give it a good coating. Now if you'd like, you could even take some lemon, since it is springtime, and grate a little limone right on there. Oh my God. Things have to be hot to get caramelization. These are gonna go on. Don't worry about grill marks, especially guys out there. They're always looking to try to get it like on those ads for those fast food restaurants. Grill marks one way is fine, preferable. All right, these go on. We're only gonna cook this veal on one side, but so while these are cooking, now this is where it gets fun. Take your wooden bowl, and in go your croutons. The asparagus tips go in. A few of the English peas. I like to taste my vegetables, so I like lots of vegetables with these. These spring onions. All right. Now if you want a little bit of grains, a little roughage, here you go. Here's some radicchio that's just been minced up really finely. Gives a beautiful color. And some spinach. Again, any ingredients in here that you like. It's really up to you. It's not up to me. On top of this, a little bit of salt and pepper.
Reboot.
Olive and the asparagus puree. All right, just a kiss of fresh lemon juice. We're gonna give these a quick toss. Now you see what I mean about cooking just on one side of this? The veal is ready, right? You can see the juices beginning to come up right here, right? That means that the veal's cooked on that side. If we look underneath, we find some amazing grill mark. That caramelization equals flavor. All right, so we're going to take these chops, we're going to turn them over. I love this. Love this. Okay, this guy goes off. Now, while I'm readying that rest, the panzanella is just perfect. So I'm just going to take a little insalatina right on top of each one of these. Take a little bit more lemon zest. And I have a little ricotta salata. Now, ricotta salata is just that. It's salted ricotta. There's really no big deal. You can use Parmigiano if you want to use Parmigiano. And just give them a little bit of a peeling. Some shards. Just begin to pull off. An olio di olive. And I tell you what, if you're wondering what am I doing putting these onto a platter, this is what I would do with my partner for a dinner for two, really romantic. Rather than having all these separate plates and everything, what I love to do is we have a little paillard of veal that's actually our plate. We're going to set this up on the corner, each of us a glass of wine, and we're going to get a chance to have a really romantic meal. So remember, panzanella. Right, panzanella is a bread salad. Any season that you want to make a bread salad, whether it's asparagus and peas and radicchio, tomatoes, wild mushrooms, pumpkins, I don't care. It's a technique that you can turn into an everyday recipe. What more could a guy ask for? An amazing piece of veal paillard with a spring pea panzanella. Somebody sitting across from me that I really care about. A glass of Napa Valley Pinot Noir. All you have to remember is that if you can taste the memory, that'll be a taste that'll last a lifetime.